All right, so carrying on with a conversation about forgiveness. Now, I'm going to walk you through what forgiveness is and what forgiveness is not. Um, and then hopefully that gives you a clear picture of forgiveness. Okay, so a few points first on what forgiveness is. And if you want to follow along here, I'm on page 214 in the small Life Care book, the self-guided study. So forgiveness is for you and not for them. Okay, um, people have said that unforgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping your enemy will die. It's forgiveness is for you to be free. It's for you to release your anger and release your bitterness and to turn them over to God. Turn all that over to God because He is the just judge. He cares about justice. He cares more than you about justice. You can trust Him for justice. That's not your job. That's His job. You're taking the person who's harmed you off of your hook and putting them onto God's. That's what you're doing when you're forgiving. You're turning them over to God. Why? So that you can be free. Okay? It's not fun to walk around angry and bitter. That's not a great way to go through life, and there's bad health outcomes associated with it. So do yourself a favor, release them to God so that you can be free. Another thing forgiveness is it's something that's done just between you and God. You don't have to even talk to the other person in order to forgive them. Think about it. Let's say the person who harmed you has passed away. Or let's say that the person who harmed you isn't safe to talk to, like perhaps even not physically safe to talk to. In that case, it doesn't make sense to go to them and offer forgiveness. Or what about the person who doesn't even think that they've done anything wrong? If you offered them forgiveness, they would laugh at you. They would mock you. That's not going to help. No, forgiveness doesn't need to be offered to the person. It's something you can do just between you and God. The other thing about forgiveness is that it's not necessarily once and done. So there's, something called neuroplasticity. I think I may have mentioned it when we talked about cognitive behavioral coaching. When you think a certain way, your brain is going down a particular neural pathway every time you have the same thought. And what you're doing with forgiveness is you are stopping yourself from going down that neural pathway of unforgiveness. You're reminding yourself that you've forgiven the person, and you are going, and by doing that, you're creating a new neural pathway when that person comes to mind. Put another way, and that's called neuroplasticity. You actually can change your brain by changing your mind. In other words, you change the way you think about something, and it actually changes the physical structure of your brain. This is called neuroplasticity. Okay? Another way of thinking about it is written about by Corrie ten Boom, who many of you may know. She was, famously lived through the Nazi Holocaust. Her entire family was in prison. Many of them were murdered in the concentration camps. She survived. She became a missionary afterwards, and she was giving a talk in a church once after the war about forgiveness. And after the talk, one of the Nazi guards who had guarded her and her family approached her and said, "Isn't it wonderful that we've been forgiven by our Lord so that we can be free?" And he put his hand out to shake her hand, and she just froze and realized that even, here she was giving this talk on forgiveness, but she just couldn't bring it herself to forgive this person who'd done such horrific things to her and her family, which makes absolute sense as to why she would struggle with that. But she was really bothered by that. So she went and talked to a priest that she knew, and they're walking around this like a monastic type campus, and she's explaining what happened to him, and he points to the bell tower on campus, and he explained that when it's time to ring the bell, the person who rings the bell grabs the rope and pulls it, and the bell starts ringing, and that even after they stop pulling the rope, the bell continues to ring for a while until it eventually slows down and quiets down. He said, this is what it's like to make a decision to forgive. Even after you stop pulling the rope of unforgiveness, that bell of unforgiveness is going to still continue to ring. But if you just make the decision that you're not going to start pulling the rope again, you're not going to indulge those thoughts, you're not going to go down that neural pathway of unforgiveness, of anger, of bitterness, and instead you're going to remind yourself that you've forgiven this person, that you've turned them over to God, and that He's theirs to deal with, then eventually that bell of unforgiveness will quiet down. So it may take a little while for the feelings of anger and bitterness to go away, even after you've forgiven. Okay? So that's what forgiveness is. Now let's say what forgiveness is not. So forgiveness is not saying that you want to return to a relationship with the person who has offended you. That, as I mentioned, would be a reconciliation, and we'll talk about reconciliation after we talk about forgiveness and amends. So you can forgive and still not be in relationship with the person that you've forgiven. All right? It's kind of like, hey, I forgive you. Go do your life. I'm going to do mine. I release you. I'm going to be free. Okay? Forgiveness is also not something that you offer to get something. For example, an amends, or an admission of guilt. You don't offer forgiveness to get anything from the person. You're offering forgiveness in order for you to be free. My wife likes to say, forgiving is not forgetting, it's for freedom. I think that belongs on a t-shirt. Okay. So forgiveness is also not saying that what was done was okay. It's not saying that what was done didn't hurt. Again, it's just releasing the person so that you don't have to be angry and bitter. And finally, forgiveness, not only do you not offer it in order to get an apology, but you don't need an apology in order to forgive. Why on earth would you allow the person who harmed you to hold the only key to unlock the chains of anger and bitterness that bind you? That makes no sense. They've already harmed you once. Why would you allow them to harm you again by keeping you in bondage to your anger, to your bitterness, to your unforgiveness? No, you hold the key, and you can unlock it at any time you want by turning them over to God and making the decision to release them so that you can be free. Okay? So, that is what forgiveness is, and that is what forgiveness is not. And framed that way, I really don't see any downside to forgiveness. It's for you. It is not for them. It's for you. Why would you not want to give yourself this gift of forgiveness, this gift of freedom? Despite, and that's just the therapeutic or psychological benefits of forgiveness, but then there are also spiritual benefits of forgiveness, even spiritual commands to forgive. And when you look at the fact that forgiveness is good for you, it's healthy for you, you can see why God is telling you to forgive. It's so that you can be free, okay? So that might even be a better way to frame it, is it's yes, God is commanding you to forgive. You can replace that with God is commanding you to be free. Why wouldn't you want to be free? Okay? So that's forgiveness. And in the next video, we are going to talk about the amends process. And I'll see you in that video.